Good evening, I'm Richard Quest. A warm welcome to a shortened Quest Means Business, where, of course, we're going to be focusing on the announcements just made moments ago as President Joe Biden laid out the details of his plan to ramp up vaccination, to increase testing and to secure more PPE. The new president in office, first full day in office, signed executive orders aimed at shoring up the supply chain, keeping workers safe. It's 1 year to the day since the first cases of COVID in the United States. And the Biden administration is telling CNN the vaccine plan they've inherited is non-existent and things are so much worse than they thought. The president admits things are going to get worse before they get better. The surest way to rescue the economy, though, is to achieve herd immunity one way or another. And if you're talking about vaccinations, health experts say that requires vaccinating 3 out of 4 adults. The consulting group McKinsey is warning the United States needs to pick up the pace if it's going to get there this year. At the current rate, the US won't hit the mark until February 2022. The president's plan is 1 million shots a day and speed things along by some 2 months. Now, if the US can hit 1.5 million, 1.6 million shots a day, as it has with flu, then the economy could start to reopen this summer. Mark Zandi is with me, the chief economist at Moody's Analytics. Mark, the significance, we'll deal with the stimulus plan and all of that, but bearing in mind what the president's just said and the significance of the PPE, the supply chain, and the 1 million plus a day. From an economic point of view, quantify it for me.
Well, Richard, it's critical. I mean, a necessary condition for getting our economy back up and running is to end the pandemic. And you can't end the pandemic, as you say, until we're to herd immunity. And key to that is vaccinations, widespread distribution and adoption of vaccinations. So everyone's gotten off to a slow start across the globe, including here in the United States. But I am confident that the new Biden administration, given the resources they're putting into this, given the focus they're putting on this, will ramp things up. And sometime between July 4th and Labor Day, I would expect that we'll have achieved herd immunity and we'll be off and running. So hopefully that forecast turns out to be correct.
Right, but so we've got to get there in that sense. And as the president said, the next few months are going to be grim. They're going to be difficult. They could be the worst months. I wonder how much of that is factored into economic forecasts. The market is on a frolic of its own.
Yeah, I think the view is, investors' view, and I think it's correct, is that between now and when we achieve herd immunity, it is going to be very difficult. The pandemic is going to rage, a high level of infections, hospitalizations, and deaths, and not hard to connect the dots back to the impact of the economy. But we're also getting a large amount of fiscal support. We got a $900 billion fiscal support package late last year. That should help through March. And then the Biden administration has now proposed a much larger package. And I do think we'll get that through Congress in the next month or two. And that should help support the economy to the other side of the pandemic, to herd immunity. If we get all of that, if we stick to that script, then I think, it's going to be a tough few months, but we'll navigate through without going back into recession. And then on the other side, we could kick into a higher gear.
Janet Yellen said that in her confirmation hearing. She says, if we wish to avoid a recession now, then these are the measures that need to be taken and taken quickly. How close, in your view, is the US, and let's not worry about 2 quarters of negative GDP. Let's just worry about negative GDP. How close is the US to it?
Close. I mean, you could see it in the data. Take a look at what happened in the month of December. Employment declined. Retail sales declined. Today we got data on unemployment insurance claims. If you add it all up, over 1 million last week. In a well-functioning economy, you're closer to 200, 250,000. So you add up all the data here, and it shows an economy that's struggling, mightily struggling, to stay out of recession. So we're very, very close here, and we need all the support we can get, and we need those vaccines to get out there fast.
Does helicopter money work? Giving out money in checks. We already had the first lot, and now there was a second lot, and then a third lot that the new president, wants to do. Does it work, or is the evidence spotty at best?
Well, it works. It's not, the most effective way to help the economy, in large part because, a fair share of that cash of those stimulus checks go to households that are just fine. As we know, there's a group of folks here that are getting crushed. Lower income households, minority groups, and then everyone else is kind of navigating through reasonably well, at least from a financial perspective. And so when they get that check, they save the money. They need the money. So, for example, I have 3 kids. They're older in their 20s. Each of the 3 kids got stimulus checks, and of course, they don't need the checks, and they put it into their checking account. So it's not the most effective way of helping, but it's not only about the most effective form of support. It's about getting things done quickly. And if politically that you can get that done quickly, I'm all for it.
Right, Mark, finally, to pull it all together from what we've heard, and more from gut rather than numbers, I get the feeling that when this is put right, so you've got your stimulus, you've got your herd immunity, the US economy could be looking for a very sharp rebound, whether it be Q3, Q4, Q1 next year. Is that your current prognosis?
Yes, I mean, I think once we have herd immunity and we get on the other side of this, we're off and running. I mean, I think there's a lot of what economists call pent-up demand. People haven't been traveling, going to restaurants, going to ball games and concerts. They're going to want to do all of that, and they have been saving because they haven't been able to go out and do those things. That money's been building up in people's checking accounts, and they're going to spend it when they have the chance. Those are high-income households, high-net-worth households, and that means a lot of growth. But I will point out, you still have that other group of Americans, that lower-income Americans, generally minority groups, lower-skilled workers, that they've been just hammered by the pandemic, and for them, this is financially devastating, and it's going to take a long time to get them back up and running.
And Mark, when we get to that happy point, you and I will be talking about when it's time for the Fed to raise interest rates and the spectre of inflation. But please God, we get to that. Please God, we get to a position where we're worried about inflationary pressures from growth. That's for the future.
Bring it on.
Good to see you, Mark Zandi, Moody's Analytics.